Good afternoon. My name is Frank Ramos. I'm coming to you from my office here in Miami. Today we're going to talk about getting published for lawyers. A little background about myself. I've done my share of writing, written about 400 plus articles and about over 20 books for lawyers. Over the course of my career, I've been practicing 23 years. I've also edited 5 books for lawyers and have been posting daily on LinkedIn for the last 4 years. I've had 2 blogs over my career and have done my share of editing of newsletters and other publications. So I have a pretty good sense of how to get published and how to get your materials out there to the general public and to individuals who are in a position to refer you matters. So let's sort of talk generally about writing and why you want to write. Getting published is a good way of showing that you're credentialed, that you're an expert in a given area, and that other people can come to see you and know you as somebody that they can trust and like with their cases with a different specific type of matter. And so writing is a great way of brandishing and your expertise in a given area. There are a plethora of places to get published. There are all sorts of resources, books and magazines and periodicals, and these days there are tons of blogs and online publications to write for. Every organization, trade association, voluntary bar association has one or more. Some have multiple sources of publications to write for. They all have places and they need lots of copy to fill their materials and resources for their members. There are legal publications and periodicals, there are journals and law reviews, and you name it. There are just so many places that get published, and they are dying and seeking and craving content and copy for their readers and subscribers and their followers and their members. And so there is no shortage of places to get published in. So don't let that be a concern or a fear or something that may be holding you back. Before you start writing, ask yourself some very general questions. Why is it that you want to write? And what do you want to write? And for whom do you want to write? Who is your intended or proposed audience? I started writing seriously, I think in 2001. It was about 4 years out. And I wasn't sure how much I really knew about the practice. I was still fairly young and felt a bit of imposter syndrome, felt I was a bit of a fraud because I didn't feel I really knew what I was doing. And I thought, well, if I start writing articles about subject matters, sort of how-to pieces or um, issues dealing with the types of cases I was handling at the time, I'd certainly feel better about myself. I'd certainly be able to see in writing that I knew what I was doing or talking about or handling. And that's kind of how it all got started. Uh, I don't remember exactly what my first article was, but I remember writing a lot of how-to pieces for other young lawyers like myself. I got a column in a local uh, publication for the DBR, the Daily Business Review. They had this thing called the Bulletin, which was actually the publication that appeared both in Daily Business Review and it's also the monthly publication of the Dade County Defense Bar, which is now known as the Miami-Dade County Defense Bar. And that was one of the regular publications I wrote for. I ended up writing columns for some national publications like Hispanic Business and Latino Magazine and some other publications that were for diverse audiences. Wrote for some local publications like South Florida Business Journal and, as I mentioned, the DBR and Florida Bar News, and wrote for periodicals like the Travel Quarterly and others like that. And that's kind of what happened. I started writing smaller, shorter pieces and then grew from there. My first book that I wrote was in 2007 for the Florida Bar. It was from law firm The Litigator. And I don't think many people read it, but it was a fun experience. And it was sort of, the soup to nuts for practice for the first, 12 to 24 months, basically transitioning from law school to being a litigation attorney, which is what I was. And it was a good way of me sort of reducing my experiences and what I thought I knew and what I had learned into a book for the Florida Bar. I wouldn't write another book for another 9 years. 2016, I wrote my next book, the Associate's Handbook for the DRI. And since then, I've been writing many books. And it took me a while to sort of feel confident and appreciate that I had the capacity and the ability to sort of share my thoughts in a way that had something to say. I had something to say, and I said it in a way that was compelling and interesting and enjoyable for others. And so for writing for me, I enjoy writing for writing's sake. Writing for me is like breathing. I've often used that comparison and analogy that I couldn't imagine not writing. I couldn't imagine not sitting down at the keyboard and writing out an article or a book or whatever, or blogging or posting, whatever else I do. It is part of who I am. It is part of my constitution. It is ingrained in my DNA. And it is something I wanted to do even as a child. As a child, I wrote my own little comic books. I wrote short stories. I wrote longer stories. This is from the ages of 6 and 7. And if I had not been a lawyer, I probably would have been a novelist or a journalist. But here I am as an attorney, and I'm pursuing this other aspect of my interests just as much. And I tell you all this not to brag on myself or to pat myself in the back, but to tell you that I've been doing this long enough that I think I have some insight as to how to write and how to get published. And looking at, the first question is, why do it? Obviously, you do it because you enjoy it. You do it professionally. Your firm wants you to do it because it increases your footprint in the legal community. It builds and grows upon your brand and your firm's brand. It shows you as a subject matter expert, an expert in whatever you're writing on, and it finds a way to market you, your practice, and your firm. To whether it's a blog post, an article, or a book, or a treatise, whatever it is that you want to pursue, that resource is going to be a way of selling yourself and selling your firm. It is a thing that you can give away, that you can share. There are certain people kind of equate certain expertise to being published, to being a published author, especially if you publish with some frequency. They kind of look at you as someone who knows what you're doing. Whether that's true or not, that's a discussion for another day. But they kind of associate you with being somebody who is an expert on the topic you're writing on. So that's certainly why you'd want to do it. Let's move beyond that question. I assume the reason you're listening to this is that you already know why you want to do it, and the bigger question is how you do it. So I would ask you first that you start small, that you start very small, actually. I would suggest that you start posting on a regular basis to social media. And I would pick LinkedIn, and I have a separate discussion that the FTCC will be sharing and others will be sharing on LinkedIn for Lawyers. You can also find that discussion on my website, miamimentor.com. But I think LinkedIn is a good platform for lawyers and professionals to share their thoughts and their expertise. It is a post you can do on a daily basis. You're limited to 1,300 characters, which is just a few sentences or a couple of short paragraphs. And it is easy, and it is concise, and it is instantaneous, sort of instant gratification, if you will. And it's a good way to get started. Start small. Start with 1,300 character posts. If you're doing Twitter, that's 280 characters. If you're doing Facebook, I think it's a little bit more. But that is a good way of starting your writing career. Short, brief, succinct, to the point. Then move on to something else. Maybe you start doing blog posts. You can write articles on LinkedIn that you can share. You start your own blog. Those are fairly easy to start. They are very ubiquitous. Hundreds, probably thousands and thousands of lawyers have blog pages that, and they're known as BLAWG blogs because of the law part of it. And that's another way. Generally, blog posts are between 300 and 600 words. They're, again, shorter. They're easier. They're more, informal, and they're sort of easier to write. And then I would go on to maybe, if you want to skip over the blog post, I would look for writing shorter articles. Fillers, publications sometimes need maybe a case note or an opinion on a recent legislation or something pithy and to the point. And the reason you want to do that is that you kind of want to build a certain level of resistance and endurance. It's no different than running a marathon in the sense that one day you do not wake up and decide I'm going to run 26 point some miles. No one does that. But many people run marathons, and they started small, or at least most of them did. Some of them had never run at all. and maybe they start walking, and then they start jogging, and then they start running, and then they start at 1 mile, and then 2 miles, and 3 miles, and so forth. And within a matter of months, they're up to 26 miles and then running a marathon. And writing isn't all that dissimilar. I don't think you should jump out of the box and write a book if you've never written before or gotten published before. Some people do that, and that's fine. I don't think that's very smart or advisable, but if that's your approach, that's your approach. But I think the better and more thoughtful approach is to start small. Start with the posts, then possibly the blog. You skip over the blogs with short articles, then write longer articles. And there are different types of articles, by the way. There's this sort of the how-to articles. There's sort of the personal reflection articles. There's the very research-based articles. There's the law review articles. You have to decide what you want to write. And sometimes articles are so intricate and there's so much information that you get co-authors, you kind of divide the research and the writing, and there's different ways of doing that, and you have to decide what you want to do. Try to stick to stuff you know. Obviously, you don't want to start writing in areas you don't know, because part of the reason you're writing is that you want to attract clients in that area. So if you're writing just to write something and suddenly a client wants to send you a case on an article you've written on a topic that you're not entirely familiar with, it's probably a case you have to turn away. So let's say you do cybersecurity matters, you write on cybersecurity issues, you already have a certain foundation or basis to write on those issues, so maybe the research isn't as much or intensive or extensive as it needs to be. You can kind of sit down and maybe work off of something you've already started and something else and some other basis or matter, and draw from your expertise and your knowledge and research from cases you've already handled, and you write a short article, and maybe you write a longer article after that. And again, you're thinking about what publications you want to write for. What are the publications that prospective clients are going to read and see your work? Is it a article in, let's say, the DRIs for the defense? Is it an article in the Wall Street Journal? Is it an article on some online platform for law.com? Is it some publication for Lexis or Westlaw? You kind of have to think through, what are the publications that are being read by individuals who are in a position to refer me work. That may require some research. A lot of times, if you just look at magazines or publications or online platforms, and you look at the content, and you look at the comments, and you look at who's commenting on it, and and just kind of who the authors are, you can probably get a good sense. Like, yeah, this is the sort of publication I want to write for, because I suspect this is the sort of publication that somebody in a position that can refer me a case will read. Obviously, there's certain publications that are geared exclusively for in-house counsel. They're generally the type of people who refer cases. They're types of magazines they tend to read. There are blogs they may follow. You may want to become a guest blogger or be a guest, write a guest article for a blog or some other online platform or means or medium. And so you have to kind of ask yourself, okay, which ones, where am I going to get the most bang for my buck? Where am I going to get published that the people that I want to influence and want to see my work are going to be looking and reading and focusing their eyeballs on. And then you kind of start having a long-term approach to it. How many articles do you want to write? How many words do you want to write per day? My approach is to write 1,500 words a day, which is actually kind of a lot if you think about it, being a full-time practicing lawyer. But that's what I do. I write about 1,500 words a day. If you read on writing, whether you read Stephen King on writing, or you read Bird by Bird, which I think is by Miss Alcott, Anne Alcott, I believe is her name, or you read other books by individuals who are published authors and who opine and give their thoughts on basic information and advice on how to write. Everybody to the letter is going to tell you, pick a word count and stick that word count on a daily basis. I forget what Stephen King's word count is. I don't know if it's 1,500 or 2,500 words a day. I forget what Talcott's word count is. There are other authors who say they're going to write 1,000 words. Some people say they're going to write 3,000 words. Some only write 500 words. But they pick a number and they sit down and they write it. And then once they're done writing it, they edit it, and that's their day. And so my advice to you, if you're going to write and make it a part of your career, part of your long-term plan, part of your a hobby or something you want to do, maybe you want to ultimately publish a book or a novel or do a series of nonfiction books like I've done, pick a word count. Start slow, let's say, or low, I should say, pick 100 words a day. And then maybe build that up. And what you'll find, kind of like running, is that you will find it easier the more you write in terms of how long it takes to write an article or a book. My first articles were excruciatingly slow and time consuming. And now I can probably write your typical article in an hour or two. It doesn't require a whole lot of thought, and the writing kind of comes pretty easily. I've developed a certain cadence and approach in my writing style, and it is a certain tone and manner, and it's very second nature now, and I just kind of spit it out. And I don't want to say spit it out and such that it's bad. I hope it's pretty good, but it's become very it's become very free flowing for me, and I'm sure it will be for you too if that's how you approach it. And so, maybe when I first started writing, I wrote 100, 200 words a day. Now I'm up to 1,500 words. It's probably going to be my limit. I don't think I can write more unless I become a professional writer, but and did that exclusively. But 1,500 words a day for me is pretty quick because I'm writing, and that includes my posts, that includes books I'm writing, includes articles I'm writing, includes from a variety of sources. So pick a word count, and let's say start 100 words a day. Let's say you're writing a 600 word article, which isn't very long, but it's something that with all of our shorter attention spans, you can say a lot in 600 words. You can write the article in 6 days, and if you write an article every 6 days, which is basically a week, you can take off that Sunday, you're basically writing 4 short articles a month. Now, let's say you're writing a longer article. Let's say you're writing an article that's 2,500 words. You can write 1 longer article every month. Let's say you want to write a book. And you kind of do the math, but most books are between 60 and 90,000 words. Some are much shorter. Mine typically are much shorter. Mine are typically between 20 and 40,000 words, so they'll have to do a couple of 80,000 word books. And the reason I do that is I think we all have much shorter attention spans, and I write a little bit differently. I don't do a lot of anecdotal stuff. I don't do a lot of long stories. I kind of just get to the point and kind of share the nugget or the idea I'm trying to talk about and do it in a very direct and simplistic or simple way, I should say, maybe not simplistic, with avoiding a lot of the war stories and personal stories that a lot of other authors use. So you can get a sense of how quickly the word count adds up. And so let's say you build up to 200 or 250 words a day, and so that's 1,000 words per every 4 days. That's 10,000 words every 40 days. 100,000 words every 400 days. You kind of see how quickly the math. I'm not even sure that any of that math is correct, but just bear with me. That's why I'm a writer and a lawyer, not a mathematician. But so you can see the avalanche effect of it. Sort of, it starts out as a snowball, and you have this big avalanche at the end by just consistently doing it. It kind of reminds me when I used to work out, and I need to get back into it, but at one point I wanted to do 1,000 push-ups. And so I couldn't even do 10 when I first started, but I consistently and slowly added to that so that I was able to, not straight through, but I was able to do 1,000 push-ups in about 25 minutes, I think. And it took me about 5 months to get there. That's a conversation for another day why I want to do 1,000 push-ups, but writing is very similar. If you want to write a 50,000 word book, you start with a 1,300 character blog post, and with time you will get to writing a 50,000 word book. It's doable. It is time, it is a process, but it is very doable. And so where do you find the time? Where do you find the time to write? And that's a question I get asked often. There are a few things you can do. One, obviously you can carve time out. You can either get up early or stay up later. 2, you can get in the process of dictating writing. I have the program Dragons Naturally Speaking, I believe it's called, and it's very intuitive. It's improved a lot for those of us. I'm 49 now. That software I tried years and years ago and didn't find it very helpful, didn't seem like it really recorded my voice very well. It's gotten a lot better. These voice dictation, voice recognition software programs have gotten much better. And So if you're driving in the car and you're dictating, you can do that. I guess we can argue whether that's safe or not. We'll put that aside for a moment, but or you're waiting in line, or they're like when you have downtime, you don't really want to sit at the computer, but you're sitting in your easy chair or your couch, and obviously you speak a lot faster than you type, and so you can see how you can get to a certain word count at a much faster, quicker pace. And at the end, you're done. You email the document. There's probably some cleanup you have to do, but you can see how you can get to 250 words pretty quickly if that's your word count. And you can see how I get to 1,500 words that quickly because it's really not that hard once you get used to doing it. So that's how you find the time. You make the time. You eliminate extraneous things like Netflix and Amazon Prime and video games and golf. And if that's what you want to do, if you want to write, you find the time to write. And I tell people that writing's not for everybody, and don't feel guilty for not writing. But if you really want to do it, you're going to find the time to do it. That's generally not the biggest issue. It's an issue, and it's something that you're going to have to find time for. But I think for those of us who really enjoy it, we're able to carve out some time of our day. And I do it every day. I do it Monday through Sunday. You may want to do Monday through Friday, or Wednesday through Sunday, and commit to a certain word count and do it every day. And there is a sense that once you start writing and you start getting published and you start seeing the byline, you start seeing your name in print or on the screen. These days, everything seems to be on virtual. We don't get that many hard copies in the mail anymore. There is sort of an infusion of confidence, of gravitas, of sort of owning your own space, like, consistently seeing your name as the author of an article or a post or even a book, or being affiliated with something. You yourself will feel more confident. You will be able to feel better about yourself. That will come across when you communicate with clients, with judges, with opposing counsel, because in the back of your head, there's going to be part of you saying, I'm a published author. And maybe you're a very extensive published author. And that's sort of going to kind of build who you are. It's sort of like going to fill you in. And also on the other side of that, conversation, people are going to come to see you. Anybody who researches you, looks up your website, or if you have a personal website, or looks you up on LinkedIn or Facebook and sees the array of publications, you're like, wow, okay. There's something to this person. There's something substantive there. There's something that goes beyond just, just whoever they think they are. There's, they put their money where their mouth is. They've really kind of set a track record and established a foundation of who they are in their practice and their firm and their reputation. So there's that positive. There's that positive side effect there. That thing that really kind of helps you get to, like, others get to know you and they get to trust you and like you. And a lot of things about client relationships that anybody who's been practicing for any length of time realizes is that clients need to know that you have their back, that you're confident, that you can argue that motion, take that deposition, try that case. And you have to be able to be confident with them when you're on the phone with them, when you're emailing them, when you're texting them, whatever interaction you may have with them. And part of that confidence can be derived from your writing. Your writing, if you have a certain body of work, almost like a portfolio of sorts, that is going to propel you in a way that people are going to want to be near you. It's almost like a pheromone you're exuding when you're around people. It's like that attracts them to you. It is a self-fulfilling prophecy that I am really good at this. And maybe you're not voicing that and you're not always saying that, but it is there. It is sort of the back of your mind and it is out there. And it's not uncommon when people ask me like, oh, who are you? What do I do? It's like, oh, go to my website, MiamiMentor.com. And I have a lot of stuff there. I have books, I have articles, I have resources, I have a whole host of things. And it's a platform for me, for the firm, to promote our practice and who we are and what I do. And it provides me an opportunity to coach and mentor countless of young lawyers and law students. But it also creates a certain je ne sais quoi, certain environment or atmosphere. Like, this is, I'm a person of substance, and I am here to represent you and your interests, and you are in good hands. I'm the Allstate people. I'm going to really take care of you. So, so getting back to the discussion about, getting published and what to do. Finding publications isn't that difficult. Write what you know. Focus on the practice area areas that you do, or it could be something more abstract or something more personal. You can certainly do that. Pick a word count and stick with it. It is like a habit. There are a number of books that talk about habits, and most of them say if you can do something for 3 weeks consistently, that will become a habit, good or bad. If you work out for 3 weeks, you're probably going to continue working on. And of course, if you smoke for 3 weeks, you'll probably continue smoking. But pick a habit, pick a writing number, stick with it. And at first, it'll be difficult. You may not want to find the time. You may not want to do it. It's kind of like exercising or eating your broccoli. But after a while, you'll get used to it and it'll become part of who you are and it'll become ingrained in you. And you will just sort of fall back on that behavior. It'll become part of a learned behavior that will become part of your everyday practice. And again, think of it sort of, like a long-term investment. If you're investing every day in your 401, you have this compound interest where over a long period of time, you're making a lot more money. So like, in year 5 versus year 10 versus 15, your wealth is growing exponentially more. Writing is similar. What happens is the more you write and the more consistent you are about your writing, the easier it gets. The faster the ideas come to you, by the way. At first, ideas may not come to you that quickly or easily. You may struggle with that. But it's the point where, for example, I'm in social media. I've been posting every day for 4+ years now. If I wanted to, I could probably post a half dozen times a day. And sometimes I actually have to hold myself back because I think it's a little bit too much for my followers and for my connections on LinkedIn. But it just kind of comes after a while. You've created an environment for yourself and your own brain, your imagination, your own creativity. That stuff is just going to come. It's going to be like a hydrant. It's just going to burst out, and it's just going to always be there. And this idea of writer's block, I don't know what that is. I mean, you have it early on, and maybe there are times where you kind of slow down, you kind of do things in a haltingly manner. But if you're consistently feeding yourself in writing, you'll find those moments few and scarce and far between. So, write every day, do it consistently, do it with a larger purpose, in the sense that you have sort of a larger idea of what you're writing about. You're not just writing these one-off articles, you're kind of building part of your brand. Each article or book kind of dovetails or leads into the next one. My brand, for those of you who follow me on LinkedIn or read my materials, it's largely sort of a how-to brand. It's geared largely toward younger lawyers, but a lot of the stuff I teach is equally practical or pragmatic for more experienced lawyers. I've written books on the practice from pre-trial to trial. I've written books on leadership to marketing, from strategic planning to life coaching, you name it. Sort of, it's basically, if I was your, I guess, personal life coach and for your career, for being an attorney, I've tried to write a book on every aspect of your career, your practice, or who you are as a person to help you better yourself and your firm and your family. And that's sort of my overall, I guess, brand. If you go to my website, it starts off saying that my purpose is your purpose. And a lot of what I write kind of lends itself to that. And it kind of allows me to have sort of this brand where people come to see me as someone they know and they trust and they like. Because I developed a personal relationship with them. I'm helping them achieve their goals and their dreams and their ideas. And they want to pay me back in different ways. Some of them ask me to write, some of them ask me to speak, some of them refer me matters. But there's that relationship you're building over a long-term basis through your writing. So define who you are, define where you want to go and what you want to achieve with your writing, and do it and commit to it. And before I conclude, I kind of want to write and speak about fiction writing. I've done some fiction writing over my time, mostly short stories, in the process of writing a novel. Hopefully, I've been trying to write a novel for some time now, but I think it's time to actually sit down and do it. With regards to, whatever genre you want to write, whether it's nonfiction or fiction, read extensively in that area. Really learn that genre, understand what people want. Because in order to get published by a publishing house or get picked up by a literary agent or getting a contract signed, let's say by the ABA or somebody else, you need to know who their audience are and what they expect. and you're going to have to fit your book in some sort of it's like they have these ideas of where the books fall into, and you're gonna have to fit into some slot. It's not like you're creating a book that like it's gonna be out here to the left field or right field. Someone's gonna want to read it. Legal thrillers are a great example. Legal thrillers follow certain patterns, certain platforms, obviously a broad scope and range of what legal thrillers are and what they say and what they have to do. But obviously, they generally involve courtroom scenes. There's generally a murder or somebody's life is at stake, or there's a lot of attention. It's very plot driven, and so if you write a legal thriller and it doesn't have any of those aspects, you're probably not going to get it published. And so, for those of you who are thinking of writing the next, great American novel, spend some time reading great American novels. Read what you want to write, not to copy it or to copycat it in any way, but just to understand how it's put together, how it is assembled, how it flows, the point of view, the characters, the plot, the climax, the conflict, the symbolism, the themes, get a sense of that. The book I want to write is going to be, or the book I'm trying to write is a mix of a legal thriller and science fiction, which really is kind of a unusual mix. There are not that many books in that specific subgenre, but I'm reading books from both those general genres to get a sense of what the expectations are and figuring out where there's overlaps, or if you were to create a Venn diagram where they converge and where they meet. So that's my take on writing. I'm sure I have a lot more to say. One of the books I've written is Getting Published for Lawyers, or it might be just Getting Published. I forget the exact title. You can find it on my website, miamimentor.com. It's a free book. It's a short book. You can read it in a couple hours. And it gives you some general writing tips on how to improve your writing. It tells you how to write for different types of publications and how to write a book. And I think I may even have a section on fiction writing, maybe not something on poetry possibly. But it has sort of, it kind of covers the waterfront on all the different types of writings that you can do, how to do it, how to pursue it, how to commit to it. It is fun. It is exciting. It is great to say something and have it affect somebody, move them, affect them, change them. It is really rewarding. Again, my name is Frank Ramos. If you go to my website, miamimentor.com, you can reach out to me, message me, email me. I'm always available to talk about writing and anything else you want to talk about. Again, I'm always available. I'm easily reached, and I love talking about a host of issues. And if you find anything on my website you find pertinent, you want to talk about, feel free. Most of my books there are free. They're easy to download. You have a great day, and see you soon.